Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Gage, this is Grantley Bernard and welcome to It Goes Off. We have got a huge show coming up this week and a very, very special guest to announce shortly because it's Heritage Week coming up. Round 15 is upon us and that's where we take a look back at some of our history and a wonderful history we have. All the teams Grantley are going to wear and be sporting the old-fashioned uniforms.
Going to have the throwback uniforms and some of them look really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually come up. I don't know if the shorty shorts are going to be on.
Oh, let's hope not.
The shorty shorts and the long socks, I don't know if they're going to be on show. But no, I think some of the uniforms look really good. So it'd be nice to see how they come up.
Well, in honour of Heritage Round, we've brought in one of the all-time greats of the NBL and a two-time Olympian, I believe, as well. None other than the great former Titan. And were you a Spectre? Will you go back to the Spectres days?
Junior Spectre, but Magic.
Magic man, and then I speak of Jason Smith, a wonderful, wonderful career playing under one of the all-time greats of the NBL, Brian Goorjian. Firstly, Jason, welcome to the program, and just give us a quick snapshot of one of the highlights of your NBL career.
Highlights of my NBL career? Well, apart from dressing up a little bit to bring the standard up in this, obviously, platform. But highlight in my career would definitely be playing in, I think it was 11 grand finals. Only won 3. But playing in 11 grand finals.
Well, that's not 11 years, that's 11 grand final games?
No, 11 grand final.
11 seasons in a grand final.
Yes. So it was, it was good fun.
Yeah, sure.
It was definitely good fun. It was 11.
11?
It was 11.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, so not a great winning percentage, but it's fond memories, mate. Fond memories, and a lot of them against you.
What did you have? 5 with the Magic/Titans, or 6 with them and 5 with the Kings?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it was so we had incredible fortune playing under Brian Goorjian, of course, but some tough losses in those 11, but some very good wins as well.
We'll just speak about Brian Goorjian. What was it like playing under him? There's the most successful NBL coach in the history. What was the reason, or one of the reasons you can think of, that made him so great?
He's probably the best communicator I've ever been around. So love the sound of his own voice, similarly to you, Andrew. But he got the best out of his talent. So he could pick talent and just work that talent, work it and manipulate it to get the best out of them. So in the likes of Frank Drimmick, Chris Anstey, Sam McKinnon, just to name a few, he definitely got those guys to perform at the best of their abilities.
One of those things you talk about is getting the best out of his talent and working people up to fever pitch, which he would do time and again when the Magic/Titans played the Tigers.
Yep.
Every single time. And one of those key aspects of those games was you guarding him. I can't say him guarding you because he couldn't guard a door.
Oh, no, that's good.
But it was you guarding him.
Yeah.
How would Goorjian go about getting you in the I guess the right frame of mind for that job?
Yeah.
And then B, how would you go about it?
He really didn't have to do too much to get me in the right frame of mind because Andrew being Andrew, I just, for 2 weeks out, I would start thinking about how I'm going to defend him and try and limit his abilities, I guess. But and then obviously the crowd factor used to come in, so we knew it was always going to be a sellout at the tennis centre or High Sense. So a lot of motivating factors there. So he didn't have to do a whole lot to rile up the team. But I just found it, for myself, I spent 90% of my energy just trying to defend him, and then 10% trying to get some offensive play in as well. So there was some unbelievable battles. I was just actually watching one the other day with Andrew Parkinson, an old teammate, and against you guys in a double overtime victory that we had. Bringing back a lot of good memories.
And do you get to watch much of the NBL these days? Are you still a keen fan?
I'm a keen fan. I don't get to watch as much as I'd like to. Working full time, not all of us get to gallivant around and watch the games. But yeah, look, my kids actively play basketball. I'm coaching basketball, so there's not a whole lot of time left in the pie there. So, but no, when I get a chance to, I'll chuck it on and watch it on TV. And there's a bit of talent running around.
Well, we've just finished round 14, is it, Grantley? And some great action going on. You're going to stick around for the entire show because we want to get your feedback right throughout. But first and foremost, Grantley is going to talk us through all the winners and losers in round 14.
Well, week 14 was actually bigger than Andrew Gaze's head.
Oh.
It started off with the Townsville Crocs 78, the New Zealand Breakers 82. This one snapped the Crocs' 5-game losing streak. Gary Irvin had 29 points for Townsville. Thomas Abercrombie had 19 points, including the tying and go-ahead baskets inside the final minute. Cedric Jackson was just 2 assists off a triple-double. He had 10 points, 10 rebounds and 8 assists. Cairns Taipans 94 beat the Wollongong Hawks 81 in Wollongong and in overtime. Glenn Saville had 14 points and 8 rebounds. The Hawks had 7 players score in double digits in this one, but they lost Reece Martin early with an ACL injury and they lost Lance Hurdle late with a knee injury, so that could be bad news for the Hawks. Adelaide 36ers 82 defeated the Sydney Kings 64. This is the first Adelaide win since 1974. And they got Daniel Johnson 24 points and 7 rebounds. They outscored the Kings 46-30 with points in the paint, and the Kings were led by Corin Henry with 15 points. And finally, way out west, the Perth Wildcats 73 cruised home against the Melbourne Tigers 58. Sean Redditch had 18 points and 7 rebounds for the Wildcats. The Wildcats won the boards 51-36. They outscored the Tigers 50-23 over the middle 2 quarters, and that set up a 29-point lead going into the 4th quarter. Johnny Flynn, the Tigers import, had 19 points, 6 rebounds and 4 assists.
See, Melbourne Tigers really struggling to score, Jason. Never had that problem back in our day. We might have given up quite a few, but scoring was never a problem. Can you 58 points in the game? It's not a lot.
No, mate. That's you're never going to win a game when you get that many points. But surely, what's happening in easy baskets and that sort of thing. Like back in your days, you'd get 10 layups in the last 4 seconds of the game. So something going wrong there.
That's because he was leaking out on defence when the offence had made 2 passes. He was gone the other way.
I didn't allude to that. He ended up getting some layups at the end of the game.
Unbelievable. Talk about leaking out.
Let's have a look at the iiNet NBL ladder, and at the top of the table, it's the New Zealand Breakers. They've won 5 in a row, but they've had to do it the hard way against the Townsville Crocs. I think Grantley, they trailed by as many as 20 in that outing, so they are getting there but making hard work of it along the way. But winning form is good form, and they've won 5 in a row. Perth Wildcats 11-4, very impressive against the Melbourne Tigers. And one thing you forgot against that win over the Tigers, 12,500 people going along to watch a game of basketball in Perth. Congratulations to their administrative staff there as well. The Sydney Kings and the Wollongong Hawks seemingly giving the rest of the competition a chance, a sniff, just a small woof of hope for the teams outside the 4, and they are led by the Melbourne Tigers, who are in 5th place, although coming off a loss at 5-9. The Adelaide 36ers back on track, lost 8 in a row, and they've gone bang against the Sydney Kings. They have hit the front, or had a win, and they are 6-11, not a long way before they hit the front. The Cairns Taipans are 5-10, and winning form is good form. They're coming off a win, so that's a positive for them. And the Townsville Crocs at 5-11. No disgrace to lose to the New Zealand Breakers, but they've given such a head start that it's going to be very difficult for them. Grantley.
That might be the game, even though they went 0-10 to start the season. that one might be the one that they rue at the end of the season as one that got away. When they would have been 6 in a row, they're playing good basketball, they're on a roll, and they've let that one slip out of their hands. Would have made them 6-10. And they would have really been pushing Wollongong and Sydney by then. They
would, and you would think, Jason, Wollongong Hawks, they have got those injury concerns, but they look like the team that just might be under the pressure of slipping out of the top 4, mainly because of the injuries that they're facing.
Yeah, I mean, they're relying obviously on Saville to really perform day in, day out, and Sav's a great player, but they really need some other talent there to be co-contributors to get those wins.
Well, in this little program we call It Goes Off, we like to address all the major issues going around in the iiNet NBL in a segment we call Tick It Off. And let's start with the Ben Madgen. I don't know if you saw it last week against the Melbourne Tigers. Ben Madgen had a little incident where he threw the chair. The NBL had an investigation and they fined him $1,000 and has a suspended sentence hanging over his head. A little bit of comedy by the Adelaide 36ers. I don't know if you saw it in the game on Sunday, but they quite humorously had a chair at the end that was all wrapped in bubble wrap. But a lot of action on the social media saying that it was a bit of a cop-out and he should have copped some sort of suspension. But $1,000 and 1 game suspended sentence. What's your take on that, Grantley?
Well, as I said last week, I thought probably a 1 game suspension would have been the way to go. It was interesting to read the tribunal's findings in saying that, well, he didn't probably really mean to throw the chair at the referee.
Just so happened.
So there's no intent
there. But the bottom line was he did throw the chair at the referee, and I think that everyone's got to have a greater duty of care to look after the people and behave.
One of the other things bouncing around the competition, Jace, I don't know if you've seen the Adelaide 36ers, really stacked with talent. Real good roster. Everyone before the start of the season was predicting that they would make the finals, but now they're in a real battle. I think they'd lost 7 or 8 in a row, or 7 in a row, and finally got the win. But what do you make of their season so far?
Yeah, it's funny because there are a couple of games that I've watched in the last few weeks, and talking to a few of my mates who follow basketball pretty closely too, and that's the main topic of conversation. How are they not performing better than they are? They're definitely probably, on paper, the best team in the competition. So where's the missing element? Is it coaching? Is it player discipline?
Balance in the roster, maybe?
There is that. But there's something that doesn't tick all the right boxes there.
And you haven't sort of anything you've sitting back watching it on the telly and NBL TV that you've figured out?
I mean, if it was me, and from an objective point of view, it's got to be coaching. I'd be holding those guys a lot more accountable than what's happening from an outsider's point of view. But I might give Brett Murray a call and see what he's got to say.
Oh, hello. We'll put that in the Wooshka category. Well done, Jace. The Wollongong Hawks, very, very vulnerable now. They started the season, I think, beyond anyone's expectations. What are they now? 8 and 7. Injuries that they have to deal with. Can they hang on, Grantley, and get back to their form at the start of the season?
I think they're in a bit of trouble, the Wollongong Hawks. They're vulnerable. I think they're on a 4-game losing streak. They've got a road double against the Breakers and the Crocs this weekend. So you've got to fancy now that's going to be a 6-game losing streak. The weekend after, they've got the Breakers, albeit in Wollongong.
It's no easy games, Grantley.
Anyway, so that's maybe a 7-game losing streak. Now all of a sudden the wheels have fallen off. Reece Martin looks like he's done with an ACL, which is bad. He's had a really good season. He was coming off a 28-point game the weekend before, so he's done. Lance Hurdle's got a knee injury, but all of a sudden, their starting backcourt is gone.
Decimated.
So now they'll bring Adris De Leon in to start. They've got Tyson Demos, who's really their only other recognised guard, but he's still coming back off injury. So they've got some issues.
Jason, in this particular program, do you ever watch It Goes Off?
I have watched it. That's why I wore the suit, mate.
I like it.
Trying to bring up the standard.
But we love to get the feedback from the good folk out there just to help us along our way. And it's a little segment we call the Mark Zuckerberg Minute. And for those of you interested in joining in the conversation, the NBL Facebook page is a very, very efficient way to make contact. Otherwise, you can hit us on Twitter, Andrew Gaze 10, the less active Grantley Bernard, or...
Non-active,
not a part of their social media.
Facebook, but not Twitter.
Oh, okay, well, that's the way to do it. And we've got some prizes to give away. We didn't have any prizes last week, but the NBL have come to the party, and an NBL prize pack is going the way of the best question that, Jason, you can be the judge of the questions and the validity and whether they're really contributing to the program at all. And we're going to start it off with Brendan Holding off the Facebook, I think this was. On a list of the most clutch players to grace the NBL, where do you think CJ Bruton sits, Jason?
Well, playing with CJ, you know, I've seen it in action many times, and I remember the game actually. We was playing for Brisbane when he hit that big clutch 3 to win the game as well. I'll never forget that one. But yeah, he'd be up there. He'd be up there, probably just sitting above, you know, the likes of Drewy and a few others. But no, it's a valid question. Valid question.
Nice.
Best question so far.
How do you rate CJ in the stakes of clutch players?
I think as Jason said, I think he's right up there. He's never been afraid to take the big shot at the end of the game. And that's probably where he's played some of his best basketball, was at the end of games where, you know, he wanted the ball in his hand, he wanted to make the shot. But, you know, I guess if you go over the history of the league, well, you know, a guy like Ricky Grace, you know, was like that. And
Leroy Loggins
carried
is
the Wildcats.
the number one.
Loggins, I mean, if you wanted, I guess, one outstanding example of clutch play at the end of a game or at an end of a championship series was Ebiari against the West Sydney
17
Razorbacks
points in 3 minutes.
when he was basically taking one dribble over the centre line and letting fly. You know, that's big time clutch play too.
But I think what you mentioned before too is that CJ, he wants the ball in that scenario, and he usually delivers. So that definitely puts him on a pedestal in that environment.
Yes, and no better example of that than last year's final series, where he just they nursed him through the season, just thereabouts. Yeah, CJ, but then in the final series just turned it on. So good question, Brendan. And then we've got Shipton. I think this is off the Twitter. It's GN Shipton with a P. Which player needs to step up? Who do you think is the underperforming in their role? Oh, this is just probably just a general question. Is there anyone specific out there that, Jason, you've seen that just needs to lift?
Well, without mentioning any names, is probably a coach.
No, you need.
It's probably a coach at Adelaide.
All right, enough said.
Have you put in for that job? Have you?
No, but you know, just to mention before, right. You know, they're probably the most talented team on paper, underperforming. So you know, the buck's got to lie somewhere.
Grantley, have you identified anyone that's just perhaps not firing on all cylinders just at the minute?
Yeah, look, it's interesting that I guess one of the teams we thought might have been better and they haven't been was Cairns this season. And without wanting to jump the gun, I've just had a gut feeling maybe that Alex Loughton hasn't played up to his expectations this season.
Well, there you go.
What about you? Come on, get off the fence. You have absolutely dodged the question.
Hey, just checking it out here because it's Heritage Round, and I don't know whether this is coming from the Wayne McDaniel, one of the all-time great scorers and players in the NBL. Wayne McDaniel. Okay, I'm assuming D-Mac is number one, Wayne McDaniel writes. But who are your top 5 passers in NBL history? Oof, we
know one we can rule out straight away.
You got Darryl McDonald.
Who? Hey, you must not have. You need to get a statistic.
There's more a 2-guard though, so you know.
Mate, have you gone to the stats? Mate, the numbers are there. The numbers are there.
But for turnovers,
no, for passes, assists. Ricky Grace.
Anyone can fumble the ball to someone into someone's path and they put it back in the basket.
Just will you have a look at the stats for me and get back to me next week and where it all sits. But Ricky Grace would be right there, and again, Leroy Loggins, virtually in any category you put up, he's going to be right there. There's been some beauties along the journey.
What about Phil Smythe?
Phil Smythe, just the master. These days, it's you see a guy like Cedric Jackson. Now I know it's early on in his career. It's only been here a season and a half, but if he sticks around, he will definitely be mentioned in the same ilk as someone like Darryl McDonald, who I think. Wayne McDaniel is spot on because D-Mac's got to be number one. The way that he could just... I played alongside him. He's
my points from when I didn't play with him to when I played with him went up by 8 to 10 a game or something. So yeah, he was phenomenal. You just knew you had to have your hands ready, otherwise the ball was going to hit you in the face. So he just got you the ball when you wanted it and when you needed it. So yeah, he was awesome to play with.
I'll throw you one that you probably appreciate more than anyone. Warwick Giddy.
Correct. Warwick Giddy, because he's not a point guard and he just had that vision, and admittedly the system helped him with the structure they wanted to do, but all the feeders, if you go back to Warwick Giddy, Nigel Purchase,
Stephen
Hall playing in the feeder spot in the shuffle system were beauties. So good thing. Oh, you might get a prize for that. Jason, it's now time. You need to make a decision, my friend, on what do you think was the most meaningful, juicy question coming from that four?
I'd probably give it to question number 2, just because of the name struggle.
Shipton. Shipton. We're going to try and make contact with you, and a NBL prize pack is going to be coming your way. So congratulations, Grantley. Big, huge. We say this week in, week out, but week 15 is upon us, and a lot of very important games that are going to determine the final placings. So can you please tell the good folk out there, if they want to see some high-octane iiNet NBL action, where they need to go this weekend?
It is another massive, big round. It's bigger than the collar on your T-shirts. It all starts Thursday. The New Zealand Breakers against the Wollongong Hawks. That is a massive game for the Hawks. Friday night, it's the Perth Wildcats against the Cairns Taipans, and the Sydney Kings against the Melbourne Tigers. That will be the game on 1 at 9 p.m. On Saturday, it's the Townsville Crocs against the Wollongong Hawks. The Crocs looking to get back on the winners list, as are the Wollongong Hawks. And on Sunday, the Adelaide 36ers against the New Zealand Breakers. That one is on 10 at 2.
It is going to be a very important weekend, so get out there and support your team and check out some of the old heritage uniforms. It should be a real treat. And I'm not sure about the shorty shorts. I know when we did the heritage round back in the day, we had to wear the shorty shorts, and it didn't go down well with the players.
Some of us had to.
So,
yeah.
What, you didn't end up doing it?
No.
See, that's why they might have just loosened the rules on the actual tightness of the shorts. Who's your favourite player in the competition right now, Jace?
Abercrombie.
Thomas Abercrombie. That's a good one. He's a great athlete. Reminds me a lot of yourself. Reminds me a lot.
Good player. Very talented.
Of yourself. He might just have you in the athleticism still. I mean, you were a freak of an athlete.
Well, I think he's got another 6 inches length in his arms. Number one. He's just, he's a good player to watch.
who was your favourite player when you were growing up?
I like Leroy.
Yeah.
But I watched a lot of this guy because he's a lot older than I am. But it's probably those two. Yeah, with the big standouts when I was young.
And you probably would have looked a lot more athletic when you were playing against him too.
Yeah, the athleticism dropped a little bit, but he did have a few athletes running around with him.
My word. My word. Jason, it's been an absolute delight to come back and reminisce a little bit without you, and we need to get you on this show. He just raises the whole standard of the program, doesn't he? With his look and...
I'll wear a T-shirt next time, okay? Just to bring it down a bit.
Down a bit.
to do that.
Hey, for you, good folk out there that need to keep up to date with all the goings on in the iiNet NBL, NBL.com is the place to be. Follow the action on 1 and Channel 10 doing a terrific job. NBL TV, Jace. Have you subscribed?
I haven't yet, but after learning, I was speaking to Grantley before.
Right.
I'm in.
Well, you're lucky you've come halfway, because I know you've got very deep pockets. So it's I think it's about $50 now for the rest of the season.
Is that all?
That is all. I know it's hard to believe, but that is all. So if you haven't subscribed, do what Jason Smith's going to do right after this segment and jump on the internet and subscribe. So they do some fantastic job. And don't forget, follow all the players on Twitter and on their Facebook pages. Each and every week, we have to pay homage to those that support this podcast and this great game. And it all starts with our naming rights sponsor, Grantley. And what a job they do. And that is, of course, iiNet.
Connect better.
10.
And 1.
Spalding.
And for.
And Virgin Australia. Have you been on a Virgin Australia flight recently, Jason?
I have actually just came back from Brisbane on the weekend. Fantastic service. Fantastic.
Brilliant stuff they do. Good luck to all the teams, Heritage Rounds. Good luck sporting those very sleek uniforms that are being handed out to everyone. They are an absolute treat. And if you've just been thinking about going to a game and you used to follow it, this is the weekend to do it, because you won't think anything's changed because they all have the same uniforms on. Jason, what do you do these days?
I'm a banker.
A banker? That's why you dress like
Commonwealth Bank, mate. The only bank.
Like you should be knocking on people's doors and selling little books.
I'm on the internet every week with a banker.
Grantley, oh geez, you've been very good today as well. But thanks very much for that, boys. And we look forward to your company next week, as we do each and every week, on the #1 podcast in the universe. This is the #1 podcast, and you're a part of it. And the name of that program, of course, is, bring it together, Jace, It Goes Off. Jeez.